Welcome to One Bills Lite, the podcast that is the express version of our Monday to Friday program, One Bills Live. Instead of 3 hours, you get 30 to 40 minutes of the best Steve and I have to offer with fresh content, along with our best interview of the week. Let's get rolling.
And it's Steve Tasker who has been all over the field.
Kind of unique. He was kind of a dual-role player for you. Steve! A balloon. Steve! A blimp? We're not even in the stratosphere of normalcy here. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you here on episode 2 of One Bills Lite. So, Steve, it's Patriots week. And for years, this has been a week that Bills fans often dread because as much as they go into it wanting to believe the Bills have a chance, the combination of the best coach and best quarterback, clearly of this generation and maybe ever, has been the prevailing roadblock. So that roadblock is now removed. We're looking at a much different Patriots team that is uncharacteristically struggling. Easy for me to say. I'm struggling too. But they've got many issues, okay? Inconsistent quarterback play, undisciplined defense in the front seven, a lack of talent, particularly at wide receiver and tight end. So while everything on paper, Steve, says the Bills should win this game, there is still a good deal of hesitation because the results over the span of almost 2 decades have been hard to forget. So first, do you think the Bills can think differently about this game? And if they can, why?
Well, I think they can because this is a team in Buffalo that is clearly, maybe for the first time in a long time, clearly more talented than the Patriots are. I think they've got better players, and with the way it's been at their quarterback position for a couple of decades, with Gronkowski leaving the fold over the last year or two, this is a much different Patriots team. Plus the fact that they had a bunch of opt-outs this season. Now, certainly the Bills did as well, with most notably Star Lotulelei. But this is a team in Buffalo that is more talented and playing better football at this point, and has been consistently for the past month and a half. So, yeah, Bills fans should feel a little differently about this game. That doesn't mean they shouldn't have a healthy respect for everything that Bill Belichick has been able to accomplish with that franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is as much a conversation about where the Bills are in their construct as it is about what looks to be, or could be very soon, a teardown of the Patriots dynasty. I mean, they're talking about trading Stephon Gilmore before the deadline, and the Bills are in year 4 of their construct and looked like they could potentially be AFC contenders. I know they stubbed their toe against the Titans and didn't look much better against the Chiefs, but they did rebound to some degree against the Jets, even if it wasn't on the scoreboard. Their defense finally showed up the way we anticipated they would here after 2 straight years of being in the top 5. I think if they were still a house on fire on offense, this would be a no-brainer and people would be coming into this thing supremely confident. But I think there is still a little bit of trepidation because of some of the struggles they've had on offense, whether it's sticking the ball in the end zone in the red zone last week or stopping the run the week before for the defense. There are still some prevailing issues there that I think give Bills fans some pause. There is also, as you know, and have been saying on One Bills Live this week, the Belichick effect. I mean, one of the best NFL coaches ever, a unique way of leveling the playing field each and every week against the opponent, taking away your strength, and somehow putting you on the short end of the stick. So, with that in mind, despite as debilitated as this Patriots team looks, Steve, should there be a concern that Belichick has something devised for this week that could level out what appears to be, and you referenced already, a major talent advantage for Buffalo this week?
Yeah, I think there is. I think Cam Newton's going to be a key part of it. He's a big, strong, athletic quarterback. The Bills have struggled to stop the run, and he's a quarterback who can run it. And he's got a 1-year deal with New England. New England should have no problem if they want make Cam Newton their lead running back in this offense and focus everything on that. I wouldn't be. I seriously say this. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots come out and do some triple option kind of stuff, something really base, something we haven't seen in decades, something that the Bills would have to contend with and say, hey, listen, guys, here's how you play this. I know this was done before you were born, but here's how we could. The wing T, all of that kind of stuff.
Inverted wishbone.
Exactly. All this stuff is in it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick comes out with something a little bit over the top in response to how poorly his team has been able to throw the football and how much of a struggle it has been for the Bills to stop the run. So they'll come up with innovative ways to do that in order to force the Bills into beating the Patriots left-handed. Right now, we've seen the Bills. They can do what they do best. They can throw the football, go have the long ball, use Josh Allen's mobility and his escapability to score points and move the ball. But if the Patriots can devise a way to take that away, they will do that defensively. And offensively, they will use every trick in the book to make the Bills do something they haven't proven they've been able to do very much, and that's stop the run.
Yeah, I think there's a part of me that wonders how and where and in what way Belichick and the defensive side of the ball will be able to bait Josh Allen into making some poor decisions. I mean, the one thing that they are still capable of doing is taking the ball away. They have 12 takeaways in 6 games, so that's 2 per game. And their only problem is they've given it away 14 times. But if they can still prove that they can take the ball away in the fashion that they have done over the first 6 weeks, I think that will be a potential equalizer for them in terms of leveling that playing field. But hopefully Josh is minding his P's and Q's and everybody's good on ball security. Okay, Steve, now it's time for our weekly dive into the numbers game. Are you ready?
Yeah, okay, let's go.
All right, so, this is going to be very Patriots related, as you might have guessed. So here is question number 1. How many current consecutive seasons have the Patriots made the playoffs? And by the way, they're the only team to have done it for this long in this current stretch.
12.
You are very close. It's 11 consecutive seasons that they have made the playoffs. Bonus question, do you think they make the postseason this year?
I will say no as a bonus question because there's no way I can get it wrong in a couple of months when nobody remembers I answered the question. So
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs either. I'm seeing the Bills with a victory this week somehow, and at 2-5, their margin for error is just way too thin with the schedule they still have left in front of them with the NFC West teams and some of these AFC West clubs that are looking even better than they did at the beginning of the season, like the Chargers. Okay, question number 2. Since 2001, the Patriots have the fewest weeks with a losing record in the NFL. So over the last 19 seasons, Steve, how many total weeks have they had a losing record?
I will say out of 19 years, 16 weeks in a season or 17 weeks in a season, that gives you about, what is that, 19 times 17?
I can't do that math, Steve. Don't put that on me.
Either. I'm going to say 6.
6 weeks with a losing record. It's a little bit more than that. It's 14. But that is insane, isn't it? To show you just how insane it is, the team that's got the second fewest weeks with a losing record from 2000, what is that, since 2001? The team with the next fewest weeks is Pittsburgh. Their number's 63 weeks. That's the second team behind 14 weeks for the Patriots. That is just stupid.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. It's
all right, so
unbelievable.
Bonus question for this one. Do you think the Patriots have a losing record this year at the end of the regular season?
I'll say yes. I'll say they will.
Yeah. Oh, they like that. The guys in the control room like that one. They were dinging us up on that. I think they're 7-9.
People have been waiting so long to pile on the Patriots. Nobody's wasting this opportunity.
Everybody's ready. I think they're 7-9 or 6-10, somewhere in there.
Right.
Because they do still get to play the Jets twice. Let's not forget that. Okay, next one, and this is interesting. How many years has it been since an AFC East opponent has swept them in a season series?
15.
15 years it's been since they've been swept in a season series. That would be incorrect, but you're not far off. 19 straight seasons without being swept by a division opponent. The Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, none of them have been able to take both division matchups from them in a regular season in 19 stinking years.
All these numbers, you wonder why people think they cheat?
Well, yeah.
It's like, think about it.
Can you really be this good? Can you? That's what everybody says. Okay, so let me ask you. Do you think they get swept by a division opponent this year? The only teams that have the ability to still do that, obviously, are the Bills and the Jets because the Dolphins lost to them in Week 1. So do the Bills or Jets have the ability to sweep the Patriots this year and end this 19-year run of not being swept?
You're asking me, do I think it's going to happen? Not if they have the ability to. I would say...
Yeah, is it going to happen?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
No! All right, so you're
They'll
calling a split.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. I don't know why, but I just think the Bills are going to be able to pull it off. The Jets certainly are not going to be able to pull that off, but I think the Bills will. So I think this streak does come to an end at 19 years. Okay, last Patriots question. How many postseason wins do you think Bill Belichick now has as a head coach? Postseason victories. Because he's the all-time leader, as you may have guessed.
I'm going to... Really? Okay, I'm going to say... I'm going to say 37.
Okay, you're a little high, but you're in the ballpark. 31.
Oh, okay.
And again, to show you just how impressive this is, the next closest guy is Hall of Fame Dallas Cowboys coach Tom Landry. He had 20. So he's
the next closest?
He's 11 wins clear of the next closest, most successful postseason head coach. I mean, the guy is going to be like flying into Canton in the Hall of Fame like on a rocket ship or something. Okay, that was fun, chiefly because all of that Patriots success is in the past and won't come close to repeating itself, we hope. Okay, time now for our interview of the week. We had an opportunity to speak with NFL on CBS analyst Charles Davis, who will be on the call with Ian Eagle for Bills-Patriots in Week 8. Welcome to the show, Charles. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's great to join you. Great to be back in the Empire State where I grew up in beautiful New Paltz, New York.
New Paltz, okay, yeah. I was wondering what the NP was for.
Yeah, I'm representing my hometown, and this is for my my high school football coach, John Ford, a proud Niagara graduate.
Okay.
And he's been struggling a bit lately, so I'm sending all my best to my coach because I love the man and wouldn't be sitting here without him.
Yeah, good on you, man. Good on you. So let's jump right into this thing, Charles, because it's a different kind of narrative here now between this Bills and Patriots matchup. And the Patriots are, I don't even know, this may be too strong of a term, but they're floundering a little bit here. And we don't usually use adjectives like that to describe the Patriots, but that's what they're doing right now, especially on offense. They have no passing offense to really speak of. It looks like Cam Newton's got the yips in terms of his accuracy. What do you make of what is going on in New England on the offensive side of the ball for them, aside from their run game, which is doing all right?
I think you framed it up perfectly because how many teams in the league would we see what we've seen throughout the first, 6-7 weeks of the season and not use a word like floundering, or are hesitant to use a word like floundering? That just tells you that we're talking about the Patriots because we're not used to it. It's hard for us to believe it and totally buy into it. And you almost feel like if you put it out there, they're going to make a liar out of you their next time out because they've made a career of doing that. How many times have we seen over the years where someone in our position has been that intrepid, bold person? The Patriots dynasty is over. The Patriots are in trouble. This is the year to get the Patriots. And where do they end up? Back in the AFC Championship game, playing for a Super Bowl, being in the Super Bowl. In this case, it feels different. It looks different. But at the same time, I still remember talking with Brandon Beane, the GM of Buffalo, preseason. Yeah, I know everyone's picking us. I get all of that. We think that we're building towards that. But we are 0-6 in this regime against New England. And until you get it done, nothing matters, nothing counts. Sunday is a big, big game for Buffalo. And it's very strange, as you said, because now the pressure's actually on them. Like everyone expects them to win this game. And that's a whole different ball game when you go into something like that because you're still dealing with New England and you're still leery.
Bills fans who watch every single snap of this football team from start to finish every season, they're having a tough time getting a handle on just what the identity of this football team is. You know, they come out like a house on fire the first 4 weeks with their passing game. They're hanging 30 burgers on everybody. And then they fall back a little bit when they play some of the top-flight teams in the AFC. The defense couldn't stop anything against the Chiefs with respect to their run game a couple of weeks ago. And then they lock it down last week, but it wasn't a convincing win over the winless Jets last week. I don't know how much of their tape you've watched to this point, Charles. I mean, I'm sure you'll be ultimately prepared on Sunday. But what if you had to put your finger on it, what is the identity, if at all, of this Bills team?
I think that you nailed it again in the beginning, and I think that anyone who's wondering what it is will keep waiting to discover. I think they're sifting through this a little bit because, as you mentioned in the early part of the season, the ability of Josh Allen to throw the ball downfield to a plethora of people. It wasn't just Stephon Diggs making big plays. Smoke was making big plays. Smoke Brown, Gabriel Davis emerged and made big plays downfield. They were able to do those sorts of things. They were waiting for Dawson Knox to be one of those guys as well. He's had some bumps along the way, but Tyler Kroft is starting to fill in. But that's what you were getting. Then everyone, and I'm gonna make it analogous to Kansas City. Everyone started to shift what they were doing with Buffalo, and they're saying, okay, we're going to get back here a little bit and make you dump it underneath it and see what you do with that. And I thought last week was one of the better weeks for Josh Allen in terms of doing that, having the patience, being able to do it, but it didn't show up on the scoreboard. I mean, it's the weirdest stat ever, isn't it? No punts, right? No touchdowns.
Yeah.
The last time that happened, we're talking about 1941, and the Brooklyn Dodgers were a football team. Jimmy Baugh and his team beat the Brooklyn Dodgers 3-0.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a really unusual set of circumstances. I don't think you'll get this week in and week out. And I don't think it's cause for alarm for Bills fans because I think the formula is still right. They'll find ways into the end zone, but I do think the run game has to come up and complement it. And I noticed they turned Josh Allen loose again a little bit more in the run game last week. And you can hold your breath all you want, but that's NFL football 2020. If you got a quarterback who can run, he's going to be part of the run game now. We're not going to just totally take him out of it.
Talking to NFL on CBS color analyst Charles Davis, doing the game with Ian Eagle and Evan Washburn this Sunday on CBS, Bills-Patriots. And, Charles, why don't we expand on that run game a little bit because Zach Moss is finally back in the lineup and healthy coming back from that turf toe injury. Popped a couple of runs against the Jets last week. I don't think it's reached the consistency level that they would like to make use of it with. I'm sure that at this point in the evolution of this offense, it's seen as a complementary piece to the passing game, but where do you think it can go going forward? Because we talked to a couple of linemen on this team, Charles, and they said we really got hurt by no preseason because to work on those combination blocking schemes, we didn't really get the reps. And so it's almost as if they've used the first half of the season to get those reps. Do you kind of see the logic in that?
I do. It's a legitimate concern, and just getting linemen to actually admit it, you've done a heck of a job because – you know, on most teams, linemen don't speak at all, right? They like fine each other if their name appears in the media. So, but it's a legit thing because there's probably no position that relies on continuity as much as an offensive line to be able to speak shorthand to each other and understand what each is going to do with a look and a nod. And then you throw in the fact, as you mentioned, no preseason, but then throw in John Feliciano's hurt early. Then they've gone through some shifting about who's playing where. Cody Ford, which side is he going to be on? Is he right guard or left guard? Brian Winters is playing. Ike Butker's playing. So you have all of that going into it, continuity again. But now you're getting Feliciano back. I'd be stunned if he doesn't start this week. The key is going to be, is Cody Ford available, not available? And if not, does that mean Brian Winters plays left guard or right guard? Is Feliciano? So they're still searching for that. So I still think it's out there in front of them. I still think their ability to run the ball is there, and it's going to get better when they get that continuity and the right people in the right spots and they play 3, 4, 5 weeks together. But Devin Singletary is one of the players that I loved coming out of Florida Atlantic. And I want to see him be able to get back to being that guy who makes you miss in the hole. And I don't care that he's a 4.6 guy. All right. He may be 4.6 straight ahead, but side to side, dancing vertical, make you miss. He's more like 2.3. I mean, this guy is amazing, making that first guy miss in the hole and then turning it into more. I expect to see more of those Devin Singletary runs as this offensive line starts to really gel together.
Yeah, because early in the season, Charles, and I probably don't need to tell you this, but the problem was, defensive line penetration. So instead of making the guy miss in the hole or missing at the second level, he had to make a guy or two miss in the backfield. And that was what was really hamstringing that.
Yeah, you turn it into a no gain run, and you go back on film, and he gets a plus next to his name to get it back to that and not a negative run. But that doesn't help him. That doesn't help the offense move the football.
Yeah. Flipping it over to the Patriots here, Charles, what do you make of Cam Newton's struggles? I found it very interesting earlier in the week that Bill Belichick was asked by a media member in New England if Cam Newton, who fortunately has recovered from COVID, might be experiencing that brain fog that we hear some people dealing with after they recover from, the virus. And Belichick dismissed it out of hand, saying, he's been checked out by all the doctors. He's good to go. I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but I found the theory compelling because we are still learning so much about this virus as it unfolds, and we're living through it, in real time. But he doesn't look like the same person, Charles.
I'm not a doctor, not going to play one on TV
right.
But let's call 2020 what it is. It's a year where we're all learning day in and day out, aren't we?
Yeah.
Every day brings us something different, especially when it involves COVID. So we really don't know. But you also have to remember the atmosphere of an NFL team and an NFL quarterback. Which one are you going to get that you ever met that's going to admit to you coming off of COVID that maybe I still have COVID brain and I'm out there playing, but I'm not really right? It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're not going to know. They're not going to tell us, even if it is something like that. It's just not something that's ever going to be admitted. We might admit it in our real lives. And all I can tell you is I've seen COVID up close and personal. I've seen it in my own family. And anyone who thinks that it responds the same way across a group of people, I will tell them from my experience is heavily mistaken. It responds differently with each and every person. You don't know how you're going to come out of it. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know what the lingering effects are. We're all still learning. So I can do nothing more than go off of what he's saying, what Bill Belichick is saying. But is he playing well? The bottom line is no, not even close. The last 3 games have not been good for him. I think they've got to think about getting back to basics, as you mentioned, running the football for them, Cam being a big part of running the football. And I'll leave it at this. 3-point shooters who missed 10 in a row, you know what coaches tell them to do? Carry it to the basket and go get yourself a layup and get started again.
Yeah.
I think for Cam, getting back and being a bigger part of the run game may help him get going again so they can throw it, because he was never better this year than the Seattle game.
Right.
Throwing and running it. They've got to get back to something like that, I believe, if he's physically capable of it.
Yeah, almost a way to get him into an early rhythm that way. It's funny you mentioned that, because last year I know Josh used to tell Brian Dable, hey, give me a design run. I need to get hit so I can calm down a little bit. So I don't start throwing rocket balls all over the place. Let me take a hit so I can kind of get into the flow of the game. I wonder if, Belichick turns around and does that with Cam. But taking their passing game a step further, Charles, the Patriots, and I know, you can slice these next-gen stats any way you want to, but next-gen stats had a number that said since week 3, Patriots receivers are only getting open. What their definition of open is, I couldn't tell you, but they're only getting open 13% of the time, which is shockingly low. But it's not like Cam has been getting a tremendous amount of help, it seems, from his receiving corps.
Put it to you this way. If they were remaking the movie Invincible right now, you would be over at the stadium getting a tryout if you wanted one with the Patriots at receiver.
Oh, man.
Because, I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to go for the hotline or the snarky take or whatever. But as you said, take those numbers however you want. Bottom line is turn on the tape and ask yourself who's open. Ask yourself who's getting open. Julian Edelman's the number 1 receiver for them, but he's playing hurt. So he's not even their number 1 guy. N'Keal Harry's supposed to be a number 1 pick last year. He struggled throughout the season for the most part, and then he got hurt last week, so we don't know if he'll go this week or not. Now you're talking about Jacoby Myers, Damiere Byrd, who was never more than a low complimentary piece in Carolina, but Cam seems to trust him because he knows him from Carolina, but never once were you ever thinking Damiere Byrd would be a huge part of your passing game. That's the struggle that they have, and you can't turn to the tight ends because Gronk left town, and he didn't leave any semblance of tight ends who can catch the ball behind him because they're not throwing in that direction either. So a lot is going on there. Yes, Cam's struggling, but out wide, not very many people getting open and helping out either.
So, and I know your time is short here, so the last one I have for you, Charles, and we're talking to Charles Davis, NFL on CBS color analyst, doing the game with Ian Eagle and Evan Washburn for Bills-Patriots on Sunday for CBS. Where do you kind of see this game going early? I mean, I'm anticipating that the Patriots are probably going to try to get their run game going since the pass game has not been all that interesting or threatening. But I'm very curious to see how the Bills play them defensively. Do they bring 8 in the box, something they don't do a terrible amount of, to try to neutralize that? It's gonna be very compelling the first couple of series here. What do you foresee?
I remember I met Coach Bill Parcells years ago when he was running the Miami Dolphins, and I got a chance to talk to him at a practice session, and he kept looking over at one of his defensive linemen, and he yelled at him, hey, and then he'd make a motion on his pants like he was tying up his pants. And I kept looking at him, and he said, I'm telling him he better have his big boy pants on this weekend because they're coming for him. That's what I feel like. If you're the defensive front of Buffalo, I definitely think big boy pants this week because this will be the second week in a row I think New England will have their basic starting offensive line together. You know, they got David Andrews back at center. Tooney can go back to left guard. Shaq Mason at right guard. You know, Isaiah Wynn at left tackle. That's their basic. And then they add in the rookie Onwenu from Michigan. This will be the second week in a row they play together. They've got to mass together and try and move people on the line of scrimmage and get them back to basics because using Damian Harris, James White, Rex Burkhead, and Cam in the run game, I think is their formula to try and get going so they can create some space for those guys on the perimeter who are having a hard time winning on their own. So I would expect it to be a very physical game right out of the gate. And big boy pants are probably a good issue in the locker room this week if you're playing on the defensive front of Buffalo. But I don't think that Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, I don't think they'd listen to our show and go, man, that's a great idea from Charles Davis. I think they're way ahead of us on that one.
Probably. Charles, listen, we appreciate the insight. We look forward to hearing you on the call with Ian Eagle. Tell the Birdman we said hi. He's a friend of the show. We look forward to hearing you on Sunday on CBS.
Can't wait to get there. Looking forward to it. This is going to be a fun one because there's a lot that's packed into this game, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
This will be a good
one. All right. Safe travels and all the best to you and your family there. Stay healthy out there, okay?
Same to you and yours and everyone who can hear our voices. Everyone stay safe, and we'll keep pressing forward. Thanks a lot. Can't wait to get to Buffalo.
Okay. Always good to talk to Charles Davis. Pleasure to have him on the show this week. So, Steve, we're going to review our best Twitter poll of the week, and it was the one that asked, how critical is Sunday's game against the Patriots when it comes to the AFC East Division race? And I know we talked about this at length on One Bills Live this week, and we see what our Twitter respondents felt. Leading the way was it's a must-win to keep our distance at the top of the division. That got over 58% of the vote. Where did you come down on this one?
I can see the logic of saying A must win to keep the distance at the top. I think it's more about C than it is anything else. I mean, the Patriots and the Jets, this does not seem to be a year where they're going to be competitive. The Bills already have a win over the Miami Dolphins. And all of these teams still have a gauntlet of the NFC West and the AFC West to play through as well. So they all have equally difficult schedules. The only difference mainly in these schedules is the fact of who's playing each other. The Jets have to play the Patriots, the Bills, and the Dolphins. And the Patriots, Bills, and Dolphins get to play the Jets twice. So that's the logic there. You want to win this game because it does put another nail in the coffin of the division. It's going to be really difficult for teams to catch the Bills when they've got a 4-0 division record headed into the second half of the season with only 2 games to play. And the best those teams can hope for is a split. So, yeah, I think it's a huge win. They get a lot more out of it than they lose. But I think that's why I think it's more of a D question, not necessary because the division is weaker this year. I think that's more the reality of the situation. But, man, oh, man, you'd love to see him go 4-0 in the division.
Well, yeah, and I'm with you. I voted the same way. Need to sweep the division with the schedule coming up. You've got a gauntlet on the way with a host of quality teams that are all probably going to be in the playoffs, whether you're talking about Seattle, Arizona, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. I mean, these teams are thumping people right now and running it up on the scoreboard. Your best path to the playoffs is probably via your division record and winning the division. It's not by trying to beat all the heavy hitters on what is a gauntlet of a schedule. I mean, if the Bills win this week and beat the Patriots, go 4-0 in the division, and they're 6-2, they can run through this 5-game gauntlet, which includes all those teams I mentioned, go 2-3 and still come out of it 8-5 and be okay with, those easier division games down the stretch. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. They need to sweep the division with the schedule ahead. So I'm all for going 4-0 this week because that affords you a little more margin for error with this gauntlet coming up. Follow-up question for you, Steve. Should there be any concern about the Dolphins, who are a game back in the loss column, now turning to Tua?
I would say, yeah. We've seen young quarterbacks come in and have some pretty good success. And the Dolphins, under Brian Flores, in the second half of last year and in the years he has coached them, they're a lot like the Bills. They get better as the season rolls on. Their talent develops. They play hard for them. That last year they finished very strong. And I think by going to Tua, that's going to give them a little bit of a boost. They did it just, if you look at it in positive spin, they did it at just the right time with the bye week coming up. Tua's got a little time to get acclimated. This is a team that's going to rally around this kid. That's what he brings to the table as maybe better than some veterans do, the ability to get guys to play hard around him. He's a well-liked guy. They want him to be successful. The organization wants him to be successful. They're counting on him to be successful, and they're going to support him in every way they can. And he's got a great understudy in Ryan Fitzpatrick who's going to give him some help on the sideline between series. So, and now certainly it's a little early to say whether we should be concerned about the Dolphins turning to Tua, but I think they've got a lot of reason to be optimistic about how he's going to play.
Yeah, I know a lot of people think he's just going to take off and be like perfect. I don't know if they're assuming he's going to be like Justin Herbert was in L.A. or how Joe Burrow's gotten off to a good start because they're from the same draft class. And I understand the first time he stepped into a college game, it was in the national title game, and he performed there and basically won the game for him. I guess they're expecting a repeat here in Miami, but I just think the NFL is a different animal, and they're going against a pretty good defense with one of the best players in the game, and Aaron Donald this week against the Rams. I don't know if it's going to be a walk in the park for him at all. So I expect some speed bumps here along the way for him, and I'm hoping it's enough to allow the Bills to keep their distance from him in the division.
I think you're right. I think that's going to be a really important game for him. I think it's. I don't want to sound like an old guy who's bitter, but I think it's easier to play quarterback in the NFL now than it has been because of the quality of guys, because of the preparation the upper college levels give these guys coming in. I think Tua it's not going to be too big for him. And I'm really anxious to see him play. And of course, except for the fact that he's in the division, you'd kind of like to see him come in and overcome that injury. But before that injury, he was going to be Joe Burrow. If he hadn't gotten his hip hurt, he would be playing in Cincinnati right now. And Joe Burrow may be in Miami, or Justin Herbert might be in Miami. Tua was the guy in this draft class of these quarterbacks. And because of his injury, teams shied away from him.
All right, that's all the time we have for this episode of One Bills Lite. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. And remember, when there isn't enough time for One Bills Live, there's always time for One Bills Lite, which lasts about as long as your commute to work. We'll see you next week, everybody.